A fantastic one. Mac Engel of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Latricia Trammell, the head coach of the Dallas Wings, with us here on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. And joining us from L.A., the scene of the crime, Nick Angstadt of the Locked On Mavs podcast. Thank you all for being here. Let's jump into Game 1 of this Mavs-Clippers series that went very differently than I think Mavs fans would have hoped or expected, especially when the news came down that Kawhi Leonard wasn't going to play in Game 1. Nick, let's start with you since you're the one there in L.A. What did you think of that rather lackluster start?
I think if the Dallas Mavericks laid an egg, I'm still cleaning up the egg because it was an ostrich egg in that second quarter that they laid. It's just an absolute stinker. One of the worst offensive quarters I've ever seen this team play in my nearly 10 years of covering this Mavericks team. It was an absolutely awful quarter for the Mavericks. They scored 8 points. They only hit 2 shots in the whole quarter. And it was a lot because the Clippers were hitting a lot of threes and the Mavs weren't hitting a lot of threes. But the Stars just didn't seem to come prepared and come out the way that you would really want them to set that kind of a tone, especially when Kawhi Leonard was out. I kind of want to throw it to Coach, when your stars don't come out prepared in a game like this and don't seem like they're ready for the moment, especially the guys like Luka and Kyrie that have been in those moments before, like, who's to blame for that? Is it the stars, the coach? Like, who would you put blame on in that sense?
Well, I'm not going to say the coach. Now, come on, no. I'll take full responsibility. I will take full responsibility for that. But, Nick, I mean, you're right. I don't think this is a Mavs team that we have seen in the past month even. It was a little surprising, but I loved what Coach Kidd said prior coming into the game. He said, we've got to match their physicality and we've got to control the pace. Well, Coach Lou, on the other hand, said that they have to make the first punch. They can't ease their way into the game, and the Clippers did just that. I mean, I feel like, too, that Luka and Kyrie taking some time off. Their rhythm was a little off in that first half. I mean, it was the worst first half since January of 2019. And so I got to give credit to the Clippers for that. But, it's the first game, right? Don't let the highs get too high and the lows get too low. I don't think we'll see this performance from the Mavericks moving forward.
It reminded me recently I was at a public park and I had used a porta potty and I made a huge mistake. I looked down, and you never want to make that mistake when you use a portalet. If you have to use one, is if your eyes drift down, you never forget what you see, ever. You can have amnesia, and you'll always remember what you saw, and I will never forget the Mavericks' 8-point second quarter today. That seems impossible in this day and age of the NBA, especially when your team has 2 of the best offensive players ever. The Clippers are not going to shoot 50% from 3 again. But I think way too many of us have regional bias who thought the Mavs were just going to roll in and beat a team that has several Hall of Famers on his roster. Yeah. And he wasn't one of those guys, wasn't even on the floor tonight. This was awful. They got out rebounded. Mason Plumlee looked like a good NBA player, for crying out loud. The other big white European, he kicked their butt. He was the best European on the floor.
Ivica Zubac, who was a headache and a half for the Mavs in their series in years gone by. The prevailing wisdom was, hey, the Mavs have got Gafford now. They've got Lively now. They'll be able to squash that. Zubac won't have the impact he did in years gone by. He was fantastic in the first quarter and was a big part of why they jumped out to that early lead. Nick, what did you think of that?
Can I go back to Max saying the regional bias of the Mavericks? I think that this Mavericks team, it's almost like they tricked us, right? Because it wasn't just regional, we're so close to this team. We've seen them be, good the last couple of months. This Mavericks team was legitimately good the last couple of months and showed us a defense that we just hadn't seen from this Mavericks team before. The trades, everything, it felt like this whole team was coming together. It felt like they were ready and locked in and all this. And then they come out and look completely different. Zubac himself, he was bigger and more physical than Daniel Gafford was. And bringing in Gafford and having Lively was supposed to be this thing for the Mavericks where, all right, now we're prepared to have these big 7-footers come at us, when before it was Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber kind of doing their best a lot of the time for this Mavericks team. But, Lively played a little bit better than Daniel Gafford did. Gafford had some trouble, and I'm curious what the Mavericks do in Game 2.
Do any of you take any positive of what we saw in the second half, or is that just a Clippers team that knew, hey, we're up 30, it doesn't matter?
I'll go with that when the game was over. And every now and then you'll see playoff games where the point differential is so big in a playoff game where the team on the losing end just kind of sends it away. And I never felt at any point that the Mavericks were in a position to threaten the Clippers in that game. I think they're going to win Game 2. I think they're going to win this series. But I just thought there's nothing really from the second half where I thought, well, it's going to translate to game two. Game two is going to be a totally different story, and I think Dallas is going to win it.